Gwenpool, a character who I personally don't like. Now, before I begin, I want to make it clear you without a doubt are allowed to like this character. And don't let me ruin her for you by the fact that I just don't. Also, this video isn't just me mouthing badly about this character, because that's not really my thing, and I think it would be very inappropriate for me to do that because I dislike it when people do that about characters I do like, which would just make me a hypocrite. Instead, it's more of an overall detailed inspection of what is I think this character kind of represents in a way, along with how I think maybe the character could be fixed. Because I'm not saying throw her away, because she can work, I just think there are certain tweaks that need to be made. Now, the character comes from the modern era of Marvel, an era of characters who I really like, such as Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, Wiccan, and Kate Bishop. But also, like every era, there are characters who I'm just not a fan of. Marvel Boy, Iron Lad, and Gwenpool. Now, a big reason as to why the character was created was both capitalize on Deadpool and replace him. In 2015, a year before the Deadpool movie, she would appear. And in 2016, Gwenpool would get her own series. After seeing that Deadpool's popularity was skyrocketing. Who, guess what, is a mutant. Marvel at this time was trying to kind of ignore the mutants and replace them with the Inhumans. This was because they didn't have the rights to them in the movies, even though now they do, which is ironic because they're now pushing the mutants again. Gwenpool is also speculated to have been created to make a female character in the same vein as Deadpool. However, I would argue that's likely not the case, since She-Hulk was usually seen as being the one who could walk, so Deadpool could run. So if they wanted a female Deadpool type character who wasn't a mutant, why not just use She-Hulk? So I'm pretty sure it's more or less on the idea of capitalizing off of Deadpool. Now, Gwenpool has a very different structure of humor, with more of a Gen Z stereotypical type of humor. I say stereotypical because I am Gen Z, and the majority of her humor seems to be drawing out outdated slang, outdated before even 2016, which was when this book was coming out, or started to. And the character is still around, making outdated slang references to the 2012s. And when she is more modern, she's typically associating her slang with kind of like 9-year-old slang. Despite the fact that she is presented as being some hip, cool, with a teenagers type of character. Now, yes, I am probably one of the more nerdy members of my generation. As in, I'm a high school student who does hear some very cringe slang, like cap, or drip, or on God. I don't understand really any of what that means, or riz, or simp. I mean, okay, I might use the word occasionally as a joke, but I do hear people say this kind of stuff on the regular in a serious manner, which I myself don't. So maybe it doesn't land for me because I'm not really associated with a lot of that culture. And I will say this, despite the fact that I have issues with Gwenpool, I think that her design is really, really good. In fact, I think it's better than some characters I actually really like. For example, I love Kate Bishop, however her Young Avengers design was, in my opinion, very bland. Gwenpool, on the other hand, has a very strong design that stays with you. She has a very strong personality and opinions over the entirety of the Marvel Universe, however in ways that has started to gain backlash, as some found insulting Marvel characters that she has mocked, because unlike Deadpool, it was done in a more ignorant fashion rather than a loving one. Her insult about She-Hulk being nothing but a sexy green model at the start made me low-key upset. And a lot of other people. Because it's not only an objectifying nature, but her claim as of that being all she is inaccurate, which, because it's not the case in any regard. In my opinion, that statement turns the entire character Gwenpool into someone that's very ignorant. And this isn't the only time she's done it. She slut-shamed Spider-Man, made an interesting comment about Tigra, etc., which is humor that someone can find funny. And it's not intended to actually, I think, insult the characters. However, in my opinion at least, it is taking it to a interesting level. That being, it's kind of a little too far. Because fans of these characters aren't going to be a big fan of the fact that you're insulting their favorite characters. And then sometimes in a very, very ignorant fashion. But yet again, I myself could just be viewing it that way because I'm a fan of these characters. And you could also be a fan of these characters and just find it funny. And I do think that there is some humor to some of her insults, but the She-Hulk one, I think, was just kind of rude, with no real pun to it. The way I found Gwenpool is through her inclusion of the Marvel Lego games, that being in the second video game. Or technically third, but it's labeled the second. Where the character replaced Deadpool as being the fourth wall-breaking character who has Quest. This was because of the whole no mutants allowed rule. Which is ironic because they were in the first game, and in the second game, or third game, they just disappear. Despite being a part of the cliffhanger in the first one. I mean, Cloak and Dagger were technically in the game, but I don't know if you would count them because they weren't mutants in the MCU. Gwenpool would also be in other games like Future Fight, which is an app game. Anyways, here's my idea on how to revamp the character. Now, I will admit, there are occasions where I do think she is kind of funny. However, they are on the rare side, and it's usually not in her own series. It's typically in a cameo or guest star role. I think the way to fix her is by keeping her comedic, but tone down the insults of the Marvel Universe as a whole, while also maybe some slight alterations to how the character plays with her humor. Perhaps making her humor outdated being an actual character trait. Have it play on old humor, and it be acknowledged that it is very much old. That way it's not being presented as being a cringe way of being with the times, because it's really not. Especially when you're saying what you're saying about Spider-Man and She-Hulk. However, that's just my idea, and you very much can disagree with that. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!